The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Ads with Simon Pound from simonpound.com.
Yes, joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Simon.
Good morning, Glenn, sir.
And you must have had a bit of a late one last night.
For a dude with twins, I guess 11 o'clock's pretty late in the scheme of things, but it wasn't too extreme. It was the creative challenge last night that was held in order to publicise what the in order to publicise the Fringe, and Eggshell has partnered up. The people who have the Eggshell, the people who have... Sorry, I say you can hear.
It's
in the background.
madness down there.
It is. It's basically a farm where the animals are in charge. Eggshell, the people who put the bus shelters up with the advertising in them, have come on board as a sponsor. And the Fringe Festival in the past has had problems with not having great kind of awareness in the greater community. And this was illustrated last night when the Fringe director stood up in front of the room full of all of these advertising creatives that were at this creative challenge and said, there were about 100 people there, and said, "So who's heard of the Fringe?" And a couple of hands went up. It was quite a good illustration. So what they decided to do was Eggshell and Stop Press and Toto's got together to throw this challenge where agencies submitted teams of 6, and then they had 1 hour in which to come up with a poster design that could go inside Eggshells to publicise the Fringe.
Right.
And so to get us in the mood, they had a couple of Fringe performances, or performances of kind of live experimental theatre that people would do in a Fringe. And then the director told us about what the Fringe was trying to do, how it was mischievous and anarchic and experimental, and she had a lovely quote where she said, "The Fringe is very unpredictable, but the shows are short and they don't cost much, so if it is awful you can just leave or it will be over soon." And there is the possibility that it will be wonderful as well.
There's a high risk associated, perhaps.
Yes, and so the idea was to capture that element of unpredictability, risk, and exploration, experiment, and patronage of the arts at a very kind of nascent early stage. So we had an hour in which to do that. Because it was meant to be for the Eggshell medium, but they were much more interested in it being a poster, in a poster sense. They didn't want there to be any Bluetooth or funniness like that. And they also said that they thought that the way that it would mainly be used would be that people would be driving past it or going past it, and so it had to follow the rules in their mind of normal kind of outdoor advertising like billboards.
Right.
That you have to be able to take in within kind of 3 to 6 seconds. I don't know if that's kind of true in the Eggshell context, because it's basically just a big poster that you're making then that could be anywhere. While I think that the thing that's really interesting about ad shelters is that you've got a captive audience, and so
people linger, don't they? They linger.
It has to serve two purposes. People going past quickly must be able to get the vague idea.
Yeah.
But you'd think that you'd want it to have a lot more going on, so that people that were captive, waiting for buses, would be able to get more from it for longer. Anyway, so that informed our thinking, but they weren't really that into that.
And that has been proven recently. You might remember who the client was, but something to do with cell phones and texting and music with
There's been some really cool creative on Eggshells. It normally costs a bit more than what you can do with just like a poster campaign for basically a charity project. But Flybys had a really cool thing where you could text and download music. There's been some great stuff in Australia where Moody campaigns especially, targeting those kind of 20 to 40-year-olds that catch buses and go to movies, 16 to 40-year-olds that catch buses and go to movies. They've had things that you can Bluetooth and videos and all kinds of stuff going down. There's even been Terminator 2 had a sound wrap, so if you sat in there you could hear things, which are pretty cool.
So who won? Who took out the prize last night?
The winner on the night was Publicist Mojo. They pulled down about 125 grand's worth of goodness for a series of ideas that were, their tagline was, "Leave with more questions than answers," and then they had pictures that created a sense of randomness. And they went with that because of its pictorial nature, and that it got across that idea that there will be questions raised. Second place was shared by a couple of teams. DDB was one of them, and they went with a campaign of lines that were quite quite challenging, saying things like, "That kid in high school didn't top himself, now you can see him in the Fringe," and "These guys wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes in Nazi Germany," which were quite confronting lines, but got them second. Our entry didn't quite get there. We thought that it'd be quite entertaining to say, "What's that smell? It's the Fringe." And another one was, "It's a load of arts." And inside the Fringe, "It's a load of arts," we had a whole lot of expressions that tried to capture the essence of the Fringe. Things like "fight unemployment, support the Fringe," "alcoholics need reply," "artists could be anywhere, that fat bloke could have tights under his pants." All kinds of things like that. But,
there's a fine balance between sort of attracting people to the Fringe or taking complete piss out of the Fringe.
Yeah, I think that the picture of the flower with the turd inside it may not have been the best of the visual metaphors.
Excellent. So that was the creative challenge. No doubt there will be a whole bunch of
Stop Press covered it, so they will be having a write-up about it. It was a really fun challenge. It was lots of fun. We had a great time. My only kind of things would be, maybe an hour is a bit short for a team of 6 people, because if you're going to have 6 people all contribute, an hour's very short.
Yeah.
So, like, a 2-person challenge would probably work in an hour.
Exactly. Hey, finally, Simon, can you tell us about another cool new project that you're getting underway with someone else?
Oh, well, not so much me, but a guy that I do a wee bit of advertising stuff with. He's a really interesting dude called Matt Campbell, and he's got something called MyLittleFunny.com that he's got going. It's a project where he gets the cartoons of Kaz, who is a big cartoonist overseas. He's got a strip called Underworld that is syndicated through things like the Village Voice and the SF Bay Guardian and lots of big alternative weeklies. And Matt Campbell lived in Tokyo and lived in New York and is a very good friend of Kaz's, and so they are making his 4-panel strips into kind of 30-odd second animated stories. And they're really cool, a bit offbeat, a bit cynical, a bit dark, but not for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And he's putting those up at MyLittleFunny.com, and it's a really cool thing to check out.
Yeah, I'm just having a look now. It's looks really well done. Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Exceptionally done. They're great fun, and Matt he's a real character, a very lovely man, and he's been very successful internationally in advertising too. He helped launch Axe, which is what we call Lynx, and at BBH New York, and they took this thing that didn't exist, kind of male deodorant body spray that had a scent in it. It just didn't exist kind of 10 years ago. They invented the category, invented that whole kind of blokiness around it, and got it to be the fastest product ever to reach 100 million sales.
Wow.
Which is quite amazing.
There's a claim to fame right there.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks very much, Simon.
Brad, okay, mate.
Cool. For
See you
more
again.
on what we've just been talking about, stoppress.co.nz and also simonpound.com.